IT Expo, Los Angeles, California, 2008.
Good afternoon. Welcome again, coming to you from the LA Convention Center at IT Expo. I'm sitting here now with Abdul Kasim, Vice President of Marketing and Business Development at Critical Links. Welcome, Abdul.
Thank you.
Well, when we last spoke down at the IT Expo in Miami earlier this year, you told me a little bit about your EdgeBox product, which really, I guess, you're saying is changing the game for the SMB.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about the value proposition that you bring to the SMB market.
Indeed. So the small and medium businesses, for the very first time, have the opportunity to compete on a beyond their traditional domains, local markets, and so on. So they can compete on a global scale and compete against the bigger players. Okay, and that's being enabled by technology, specifically telecom and IT technologies. So having an online presence, for instance, simple thing as that, will enable them to reach a global marketplace. Okay, so this recognition is increasing within the SMB community, but the big barrier for them has been the cost of getting all these technological capabilities. You know, that's been a big barrier, and the complexity of it all. The SMBs, as you know, they're typically, a few people can ill afford the IT support, expensive IT support that they'd have to manage all these technical capabilities, and also, and compete and so on. So there's a cost and complexity barrier that they're faced. What we at Critical Links are striving to do is to eliminate that barrier. So what we have is the EdgeBox, that is our product, our flagship product, and it aims to dramatically simplify the availability of these capabilities for small and medium businesses. And so in effect, for the very first time, we believe SMBs have the ability to get all the technology that a bigger competitor, much more a better financed competitor can have. So they can do so at a very economical cost.
I guess what you've done really is taken several different appliances or products and combined them into one, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's putting it in a sort of a simple fashion. Yes. What we have done actually is integrated a lot of functionality. Previously residing in multiple devices, we've integrated in a simple fashion so as to hide that complexity and make it simpler for the SMBs. So the one thing that I need to point out is the open source, the availability of open source. So the open source components out there enable us to change the game for SMBs, because what we have done is integrate all these different functionalities at a very low cost structure, at a very low cost point. So that enables us to deliver these services. Of course, we have had to, we have integrated over 200 open source components, added a lot of our IP to productize it and make it much more simpler so an SMB can manage it themselves. They don't need to have expensive IT support. So in so doing, we are making available a best-of-breed product with all these different capabilities at a very low price point. Typically, the EdgeBox costs about a third of a multi-product solution.
So you've got cost, obviously, as one factor, and you mentioned simplicity. And I know that when we last spoke, you told me that Critical Links has also moved its corporate headquarters, I think, to New Jersey, right?
That is correct.
As part of its go-to-market strategy. Talk a little more about what you're doing to bring the EdgeBox to the SMB.
Sure. So our go-to-market strategies employs a three-pronged approach. So we reach the big, very fragmented, as you know, the SMB market is very fragmented. So we reach the SMB market through value-added resellers, service providers, and OEM partners. So that's a three-pronged strategy. Through VARs, even the VARs who are typically consulted by the SMBs, they require a lot of support. A lot of them come from the traditional telephony area, so they require a lot of stuff, especially since a lot of the platform is basically IP-based. So there's a learning curve involved for a lot of these VARs. So what we have done is integrate its components and hide the complexity, so there is really no need for you to understand all the IP specific. You don't need to have an IP specific knowledge. So VARs can quickly get onto speed and deliver these services for the SMBs without really going through a big learning curve. And then from a service provider standpoint, what we have managed to do is we enable them to deliver a whole lot of services. They can deliver VoIP, VPN, storage, security, firewall, web server, email server, print server, all these kinds of capabilities for the SMB. So in essence, we're trying to meet all the needs of an SMB, the telecom and IT needs of an SMB. And now the service provider can deliver those as services. So they can, in effect, create a sticky bundle, which means that they can aim to increase the average revenue per user, which is a big thing for service provider these days, to derive more revenue from existing customer base. And also to keep them on board, right? So by delivering the whole gamut of services, they're able to keep the customer on board.
Excellent. We've been talking with Abdul Kasim from Critical Links about how the EdgeBox is helping change the game in the SMB space. Thanks very much for joining us today, and thanks for joining us at IT Expo.
My pleasure, Eric. Thank you.